Hello, there we are. Welcome, and we are live on YouTube. Hello, everyone. This is Tara Lee Live, and we are on the morning show this morning. It is Wednesday morning. It is the 16th, and I am here with Drake, my co-host. I'm checking in from Washington. Drake, my co-host, is checking in from Canada. But guess what? We also have another amazing guest in the house today, and she is checking in from Spain. We have Sarah Russo in the house. Hello, Sarah.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So awesome to have you. So, Drake, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce her. We got a little thing to talk about, introduce her. So go ahead, Drake.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Tara. And hello, Sarah. Super happy to have you on. And for anyone out there who doesn't know, Sarah Russo is a writer, cannabis consultant, and social media and content manager. She got her degree in environmental studies and social justice with a focus in plant medicine from the Evergreen State College. She has previously worked for Project CBD and the Society of Cannabis Clinicians. She's also acted as a herbal medicine educator in natural remedy apothecary shops. And some of her main goals are diversifying the cannabis movement by integrating the plant into greater herbal medicine compendium, as well as encouraging sustainable agricultural practices. It's fantastic. We're super excited to have you here, Sarah. Please go on a little bit and let's hear a little bit about you.
Great, thanks. So I've been a lover of plants since I was a child, as far back as I can remember. I grew up in Montana, so I was surrounded by mountains and a river in my backyard, and I always gravitated toward plants and animals just because it was my surroundings. And I remember early on thinking it was incredibly special that these plants grew and were available to us, and they all had different appearances and properties, and we could use them as medicine. And I always thought that was much cooler than regular medicine. So I started experimenting with them at a young age and got into essential oils. And then throughout my life, I did different things. And, in my teenage years was pursuing other interests, but plants have always come back into the fold. So now they're my main passion. And I've been involved in the cannabis space and the herbal medicine world for over 13 years at this point. So
Wow.
I kind of gravitated back between the cannabis movement, and I've worked at herb shops that didn't contain cannabis but contain other herbs and things like that. So kind of now it's just all one big lump for me.
Well, they all fit together so well. So it's a perfect symposium of how everything just matches up. If I recall correctly from listening quite recently, actually, your cannabis use started when you were about 15 years old, you said prior, something around there?
Yes. So I first started when I was a teenager. Teenagers typically gravitate towards cannabis. Pretty common experience. And I started using it. And at the time I thought, wow, why am I, wearing an Abercrombie and Fitch t-shirt? Why am I promoting these big brands? Why? It started getting me to question everything. And I kind of had this historic distaste for authority. And then when I was around 15, I was, typically trying to conform or be part of a thing.
Yep.
And then I realized, oh, no. The counterculture or whatever you want to call it is more my world. And so I started pursuing that world more and more.
Yeah, that's awesome. It was I was kind of smiling because it was a similar story for myself, because even you brought up just the whole DARE program and how I went through and just how a lot of the stuff was just propaganda that was shown to us. And it's just so cool to be able to see now the just stacking evidence that was all lies. Essentially, it was all just made up, and the people preaching it didn't necessarily know that. They might have believed what they were saying, but it's just kind of almost incredible to think of how much of a negative impact just something like that had. So it was kind of cool just to see your spin on that, and how finding out about that being kind of not the truth, and how okay, if they're lying about this and I can't really trust everything I'm being told by my superiors, well then I'm going to have to go and find this out for myself. And it really kind of spurred this passion.
Right. Yeah. And you bring up a good point. I think it's important that especially kids and teenagers have access to truthful information because often, I feel like children are such the keepers of truth, right? And so if they hear something that isn't true and then, an adult's telling them lies, then they're just going to reject what they say, even if maybe adult has some good words of wisdom. So I think that's why it's fundamental that we educate kids and adolescents about how to use plants and how to use drugs, and to really give them the tools that they need to make informed decisions, because oftentimes they're going to gravitate towards these substances. They're going to be experimental. So we're not going to say go get high, kids, but at the same time we want to make sure that they're supported and make healthy decisions that are based on fact and truth.
And I love that you brought up like drugs. We need to teach everybody about drugs. And drugs are not just like what we consider like cannabis and other things as a drug, but caffeine is a drug, sugar is a drug. Really a definition of a drug is something that kind of alters your state. Isn't that kind of the definition of a drug? That's kind of how I use it.
Yeah, definitely. And I always think about too how there's really no standard baseline of our consciousness. What's sober? We're always altering our consciousness with social media, with running, all these different things change our perception of the world, and good for us, that's why we're here. So
adrenaline changes it. Come on. Exactly. I love it.
Yeah. So I think, more and more we're starting to see shifts in the way that, we're viewing cannabis, other psychedelics, for example. Mushrooms are becoming decriminalized in numerous areas. It's exciting in this time that we have the ability to watch this part of history. And at the same time, we still have to work for advocacy and education that supports these medicines and holds them in integrity. Nice.
Yeah, we are also what's the proper way to say it? We fully condone anyone using any sort of fungal remediation for the soil or for their bodies. So it's something that we both find very lucrative ourselves. I know I enjoy the microdosing frenzy that's been going recently. I've been enjoying those for a long time, as well as just small doses. And I can equally enjoy getting into the more medium-sized doses. But as a very beneficial and more medicinal way to look at it, these microdoses, let's talk about 0.1 of a gram or even less, can be very therapeutic, and a lot of different individuals are reporting benefits from it.
Yeah, it's amazing what the experiences that people are having, and I think that we have a lot of potential to be able to study this in even more depth. And the fungal kingdom is just incredible. It's when I was researching an article, I just kept getting my mind blown, and it's going to be a constant exploration of that world. And I think it's especially exciting to think about how they might be able to, help with cleaning up oil spills, and, you two, I'm sure, work with fungus in your gardens. And I'm really interested in that. That's something I want to learn more about.
I know.
Well, Nick Risden just had an amazing thing happen with him. Dragonfly Earth Medicine, as you know, has their mushroom and CBD oil in capsules, and mycocapsules, they call them mycocaps. And I know Nick has been taking them for a long, long time. They've been giving them to Nick, and Nick swears by them really helping him out. Well, they actually did a brain study, and they had like scans hooked up, and they actually did a thing and watched his brain on these mushrooms, and how he actually got validated that these things are actually saving him. So by a doctor, like this was something that just happened, and he was super excited to have this happen for him. So it's really cool. So we're going to be talking a lot more about fungus in the future with Dragonfly, of course, coming up, and you can definitely come on and we can hang out and talk more about fungus.
Can't wait to hear more about
yes.
That was very exhilarating. And then also recently we had Paul Stamets release. I don't think it's him specifically, but he once the NDAs were all over and the patents expired, he was able to release, or maybe the patents didn't expire, but once he got free range in it, so I don't misspeak here, he shared all these patents that he's been looking into and working with for fungus, for like insecticides, for what was it? It was for a solid list of things, for attracting beneficial insects. I'm pretty sure there's a whole list of different benefits that these specific fungi they're finding can provide. So just check out Paul Stametz's page wherever, and you will see a lot better rendition of what I'm trying to spit out.
And real quick, I just wanted to tell everybody, we got a lot of new people coming in. Hello, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. And I just wanted to let you know, we have Sarah Russo on today with Herbs of the Apocalypse. I'm going to share the website right now and also her Instagram. And we'll get that in chat. Go ahead, Drake. What?
On that note, I was going to say, Sarah, do you want to jump into that as Tara brings that up and shows it? Do you want to let everyone know what the 10 Herbs of Apocalypse is all about, and what you've kind of the legwork you've put into it, and kind of just, maybe just start from the beginning of what where the theory came from?
Sure, definitely. So Herbs for the Apocalypse is a women-crafted, botanically infused indie graphic novel. The project has been in production for about 4 years. I originally started this as a novel, so I wrote a full-length novel. It went through 3 drafts, and then I had it professionally edited, and just didn't feel like the vision was really being held in the way it should have been. And so I shelved it and thought, okay, well, at least I can say I wrote a book, and just kind of put it on the shelf again. And then maybe 9 months later, I was in a hot springs with my best friend in Colorado under the influence of plant medicine. And I had this realization, I think it should be a graphic novel. And I had, before never written a novel. Then I had never written fiction. And then I had never written a graphic novel. So I was basically starting completely from scratch. And so doing that was an interesting process, just because, there's a learning curve and things like that, but the trajectory just kept me moving forward. And I couldn't leave this story behind. So the main character came to me as a concept. Her name is Sofia Spinoza. She's a dreamer rooted by her love of plant life. She's fixated on music. She's obsessed with music, loves it so much. She's constantly chasing a time of the past. She listens to tapes and records, and she has this kind of anger towards humanity because they're destroying the planet. So they're essentially taking away, or so she thinks, the ability to, find her only solace, which is Mother Nature. So it explores her journey. And very early on in the story, she goes to work at a herbal apothecary. And she has this strong line to the plants' voices themselves. So throughout the story, the plants will talk. And many different plants have mentioned throughout the story, but there are 10 herbs that get a monologue. So those are the 10 herbs of the apocalypse. And so they chime in and give their feedback on how to survive Armageddon. And as you all may guess, the first monologue is cannabis. Now, we love cannabis, of course, but it's not the only herb in the story, and it's not going to take over the show. So that's a little rough background about the comic.
I love it.
Incredible.
That's beautiful. And I think it's awesome that a woman comic, because there's not a lot of women comics out there. There's not a lot of women in the cannabis industry too. That's another. So it's really cool. And I think it's really awesome to share this moment with you, that we have a couple women here on the panel today. And I think it's amazing. And I'm going to take a dab because I want to celebrate with all my friends and family that are tuning in to chat with a little celebratory dab, because we kind of normally do that. Sarah, however, is in Spain, and it's not necessarily legal over there in Spain. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. So I just wanted to give a tip of the hat to the statement you mentioned about women in comics and women in cannabis, because I didn't intend to have the comic be I always wanted to have a woman illustrator, but my goal wasn't to make it necessarily a women in comics concept. But then I guess the very act of being a women team creating a comic is sort of revolutionary. There are a few examples that I can think of women who have created comics, but there are a few, and we're hoping to, hopefully inspire more. And, like you said as well, with the cannabis space, it's very male dominated as well, which is shifting. But going back to your question about Spain, so it's interesting because Spain has some of the world's strongest research in regards to cannabis. Some of the most profound studies that have been done on, for example, the anti-tumoral properties of the plant have been done in this country. But there's a very large disconnect between that and the research world, and then access for patients. For example, I use cannabis for 2 chronic conditions. It's very difficult for me to get access to any sort of quality cannabis that I would feel comfortable ingesting. Growing your own, obviously, is the ideal, but I have a terrace right now. I can't, it's pretty covered, so I can't really grow. Plus I live next to my landlords.
Are you allowed?
Anyway,
Sorry.
So
are you allowed
there
couple
is
plants there?
Yeah, so it's a kind of tricky situation. There have been some cannabis social clubs that have been legalized in a certain region of Spain, Catalonia, where the Barcelona is, for example, and they are set up as a legal loophole. So people that can join for any reason as a social club, and then they're protected. So if you go there, it's kind of like a dispensary, but it's not any old person can come. You have to have a recommendation or you have to have an invitation from someone that is a member of the club already. So if I'm Joe Schmo and I show up in Madrid, for example, and I want to get access to cannabis, and there's a cannabis club that I hear about, I can't go knock on the door and have them serve me. So there's a barrier that there's no quality control whatsoever. So when you go into these clubs, a lot of them are focused on the social aspect, which I think is missing in a lot of the dispensaries in the US, for example. I mean, it's very nice to have that social component, and it's community and it's bonding. But at the same time, if you're a quote medical patient, and I don't agree with the dichotomy between recreational versus medical, because I think it's all just use of a plant, but supporting people that maybe don't know about cannabis and need to have guidance on it if they're navigating a challenging condition, there's really not that support for them. There's no quality control whatsoever. So, you don't know what you're getting. These products are not standardized. The quality, you don't know if they're pesticides. So these are all the issues that people in Spain face, but there are organizations working to change this. There's ICEERS. They have a faction called CannaMed. They're working to advocate for change in laws. And there's also a Spanish endocannabinology society that just formed as well. So there are people doing important work in this country, but there's, it's going to be an uphill battle still.
Yeah, definitely. It's super good to hear that there's at least some form of collaboration working together to provide some sort of access. But yeah, like you said, in the kind of starting times of any of the cannabis industry in any locations, it's always a little bit dicey. You never know. You're rolling the dice. Exactly, right? You don't know if there's any pesticides, what the quality is going to be, where it came from, and then if you can ever get it again. So at least overall, there's something happening, and I feel like worldwide it is slowly, well, a lot faster now, making its way. So just gotta keep waiting and keep pushing the battle as we are. But Tara, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, do we want to jump back to talking a little bit more about the herbs? There was a couple of herbs that we were talking about before the show, and someone used the scientific name, which I was like, oh, I don't have that. And then we heard the real name that we call it. And yeah, I actually know about it. Do we want to get back to that, Sarah?
Yeah, sure. So we were talking about different plants that have mentioned in the comic, and one of them is calendula, also known as marigold. And you two mentioned that you use that in your garden, which I think is really wonderful. And then as well as yarrow, which is a super plant. So maybe we can talk a little bit about how you use them in your garden. I can talk a little bit more about why I feel like the herbs of the apocalypse.
Yeah, of course. Yarrow, love it. Marigolds as well. Calendula, however I always mispronounce it. They're fantastic. And from my understanding of the marigolds to start with, they're great for insect repellents. They're also good for the pollinators. I mean, pretty much all plants, if you can get a plant to grow in soil, it's going to be remediating that soil to some degree, as long as you're not removing the whole plant from the growth site every season. As long as you let it do its natural system, it's going to be just having microbial interactions, and things are going to be slowly getting better and better. So there's that aspect with every plant. Transitioning into yarrow, it's a beautiful plant, great for pollinators. There's always so many of the little beneficial insects ripping around it, and hoverflies, and they just love it. It must just be a proper size for their parts to be able to work with. And I know that one's a great biodynamic accumulator that has a really solid root structure that's great for breaking up hard grounds. And it's like specifically here, I've got a couple big acreage style fields to my left and right, and they have not been maintained. If anything, they were degraded, however many 15, 20, 30 years ago when the compounds where I'm in was built. And all that's growing there is just some natural grasses, some really resilient weeds. We're starting to get a couple new neat flowers and a ton of yarrow. Then you start getting the thistles and some of the other, like thistle specifically. There we go. There's one that a lot of people avoid because it's prickly and nasty, but most of the plant can be utilized. It's solid for making any sort of our ferments, and it's same thing, biodynamic accumulator that's good for remediating the soil. So for getting back with just marigolds and yarrow, that's kind of my take of those and why we enjoy them.
So the only thing to add about the marigolds, how I understand, I think they can also be a trap plant for spider mites. I understand spider mites like marigolds. So be aware of some of these herbs when you're planting them in your gardens. You need to be aware of, there are pests that do like them, like clover. You need to be aware there's things that like clover. So I'm just throwing those out as little things. We're not talking about clover today, but there are things that you need to be aware of that do like certain herbs that you are using in a garden. So it's also really important to identify a bug when you're going to use an herb in your garden. Or if you're going to use something in your garden to get rid of a bug, you need to identify that bug first and really know maybe this bug actually likes this. So that's not something to get rid of it with, it's going to attract that bug. So you really need to be aware of that. There's lots of ones in the Jadam pesticide book that we use and that we're going into, and you can keep following along with us. Drake and I are actually doing some side-by-side studies. Drake's using some with dandelions right now, just to kind of drop a little bomb right there.
That's the one we're getting into, making that one right away. Just the most recent trial with sunchokes from the property, but without getting too deep.
Yeah, we won't go on any other herbs, but
marigolds and yarrow.
The marigolds and yarrow, back to that. So the marigolds, yes. So you be careful of that. They can be a trap plant for spider mites. And the yarrow, I actually don't have any in my beds at the moment. I have yarrow all over the back of my property. I have natural growing like sagebrush and grasses and stuff out. I have a whole natural path out back. And it's yarrow just naturally started coming up. As soon as I started watering, I have that just growing everywhere naturally. It's just amazing. I love it. It's such a beautiful plant. And like Drake said, pollinators crazy. There's just bees galore all over it, and several other flowers back there. So yes, I love yarrow. I heard it can help enhance flavors planted next to other things. It can help with that. And I also heard that about chamomile, but I'm not sure.
Thank you, Mike.
So, but I would love to know what else you know about it, Sarah. So go ahead.
Wow, thanks for sharing both of those experiences. I started my own herb garden here, but I'm very new to it, so I'm learning a lot. But I'm really inspired by people that are, fine tuning and honing the craft. So I look forward to learning more about how to use all these herbs, especially in connection with one another. And then you brought up a really good point, Drake, about weeds, because another herb of the apocalypse is dandelion. So, there are many herbs that we can, society considers weeds, but are actually incredibly beneficial. And, they'll rip them out, like nettles, stinging nettles, for example. People rip those out. They rip out dandelion. Those are all herbs of the apocalypse. And my friend, Katie, she had mentioned this. She's an herbalist, and she planted this seed in my head, but basically said, they're here to tell us you need us. That's why they're so widespread. That's why they're everywhere. And what are we doing? We're ripping them out. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. So we need to revere weeds. I mean, there are so many beautiful weeds out there, and really examine our relationship to nature. And then going back to yarrow and calendula, aka marigold, I chose those plants because, for example, yarrow, I'm interested in the part you mentioned, Tara, about its ability to change the flavors, because it's a bitter herb, so it's really good at stimulating digestion. And it also, it has a very strong flavor. It's also a fever reducer, and it's amazing wound healer. And it historically is used as an herb for the warrior. So in Greek lore and Greek mythology, Hercules, it was the herb of Hercules, and Grecian warriors would go out with yarrow as a protector. And then for people who are sensitive souls like myself, you can actually work with yarrow to maintain energetic boundaries. So if you're sensitive and you absorb the energy of other people, if you're empathic, it can help protect you from other people's energy. And so that kind of warrior archetype of the plant is why I included it. And then marigold or calendula is such a beautiful plant. I mean, as you know, it's just a stunning color. And it's also kind of like the battle nurse, I'd say. Yarrow is kind of the frontline defense, and then calendula is kind of that sweet kind of, soothing after a wound. For example, if you get a cut and it might get infected and right away you want to apply something, yarrow is good to apply. And then later, as it's starting to heal up, having that calendula is really good because it's antibacterial, but generally speaking, most antibacterial herbs are very drying. But calendula is actually soothing and hydrating and antibacterial, so it has really special properties. And also calendula, it turns to face the sun in its path across the sky. So it's known to be this kind of bringer of sunshine. And so my friend, who's an herbalist, he, once my friend had passed away, handed me a calendula flower just to hold in your hand. So it can be helpful for working with grief or trauma, and it can be good for digestive issues. Both yarrow and calendula can. So who knows, if you are growing these herbs, I have calendula here, I don't have yarrow, but yarrow is incredible. It grows, I remember in Montana, it would grow in the winter time. It just can survive, and it's the only flower out there. And so who knows, we're just starting to learn more about the synergies of these plants together. So maybe if the more we listen, we can be able to tune in and go deeper.
Oh, I 100% agree. And thank you so much. There were so many cool tips. I know Tara and I both were like, whoa. What about this yarrow for reducing?
Yeah.
Both are just like sponges, right? And like with ADD,
So
like from 0 to 100 with no matter what the mood is from another individual. So go ahead, Tara.
the yarrow. So as an empath, how would someone discovered they're an empath? I didn't realize I was. How would you go about using that? You said it helps you with that, and go ahead.
Yeah, so you can kind of use it in the same way you would with the calendula. You could pluck a flower, you could wear it in your hair, you could have it, tuck it into your bra, you could kind of just have it around you. That sometimes can help. And then also flower essences. So flower essences are basically taking the energetic properties of the plant, and then you would take that, as drops. And some people don't believe in flower essences, but they have a long history of use, for example, in Germany and France. And they're generally more supportive of emotional and spiritual kind of work that you might need to do. And so I've actually done my own flower essence in Colorado with my friend Katie again. And we were able to pluck the flowers, you put them in water, you cover the jar, and you let them basically sit and absorb the sun's light. And we had hummingbirds flying overhead. So it was, very blessed by nature. And then that is the mother, and you take that, and that becomes kind of the base of the flower essence. And then you distill that down again. So you're actually taking a separate tincture bottle, you're filling that halfway full with a type of alcohol, the rest water, and then you drop in anywhere from 5 to 10 or 5 to 20 drops of that mother in that bottle. And then that's the amount of plant medicine that you're taking in. So it's a homeopathic amount. And again, some people say it's bullshit, but to each their own. But for me, I've noticed that that's been helpful. And for me, yarrow will always be a power plant in my life.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Beautiful. I want to try it now. So yeah, I'm going to have to I'm guessing there's a certain harvest time and all this stuff because, as we learn about these things, there's obviously, we know growing cannabis, there's a right time to harvest. Obviously, there's going to be a right time to harvest this yarrow plant at a certain time of its flowering peak, right? Or when is the harvest time? Do you actually know any about that? That's pretty cool.
For the harvest time of yarrow is what you were.
Yeah, Sarah, do you actually know about that? The harvest, so when would you harvest the yarrow, or have you made all these tinctures and stuff? Like, this is really cool. I love this.
Yeah, so that's a good question. When I harvested yarrow, I can't speak to its full harvest time, but when I did, it was in the summer, so it was sometime in July. But I would say if the flowers are out, harvest them. So yeah. I think yarrow stays flowering for a really long time. Actually, the leaves themselves, they're really beneficial as wound healers. So that's the most potent part of the plant for healing wounds. So if you have a cut or a wound, you can take the leaf, you can even chew on it and put it on and apply it there, or you can make a tincture and apply the tincture externally as well. But yeah, this is part of the work, I think, too, is to learn more about these plants. And for example, will always be a perpetual student. And one thing I should mention, kind of like tying the comic again, is that there's bits of herbal medicine information woven into the story. So as people are reading, they're going to get some downloads, and there are little recipes thrown in there too. So part of the comic is also a side project, which is to empower people about using plant medicine and to kind of take the mystery out of it, because a lot of us are connected to plants. We just don't think we are. And some cultures have been disconnected from plant medicine, and some people have maintained their traditions forever. It's just that powers that be, like capitalism, for example, they try to keep people from using their plant medicine. So throughout the story, people will be able to learn more about learning herbs, and then we have the DIY approach, do it yourself. So the comic itself is a DIY approach because we started from scratch. And then also the plant medicine is putting the power in the hands of the people to say, hey, as long as you can identify this plant correctly, make sure you do that, because there are some plants that, you might look similar to another plant and you don't want to use that. But to really help people just know that they can take charge of their own healing and health and connection to plants.
Identify. I like that you brought up identify them, because stinging nettle I have out back as well that grows wild, and right next to it is catnip. And if you weren't really, paying attention, you would really run into that. And obviously the stinging nettle, you've got to be really careful around that stuff. But you actually can handle stinging nettle if you know how to handle it. I've watched people actually handle it, and it's a certain way that you caress it, and the hairs won't actually poke you because they lay a certain way. It's very interesting. I love learning about all these things. So cool, Sarah. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think nettles is one of the most amazing plants. It's another herb for the apocalypse. I've had a very interesting relationship with it because, it has so many different uses, but one of them, as you may know, is urtication, where you actually take it and hit yourself with it if you have inflammation on your body. So if you have knee pain, you can hit your knee with nettles. And I tried that, and I was having some inflammation, and I decided to hit myself, and I went overboard. And then that night I couldn't sleep because I was so itchy. So, you have to respect the plant. And even I, have to learn that.
So I will, on one of these shows, I'm going to go out and get a piece of stinging nettle, and I will sting myself and show you guys but literally, I have this cannabis cream that I make with just literally you just rosin chips and coconut oil or shea butter or whatever you want to use. You can use any type of oil. And if you put that on right after you get stung by nettle, it'll actually take the sting away right away. It's crazy. Like literally, it will go away. And because I work with a lot of sting, before I was one of those. I was the person that was out getting rid of the stinging nettle, the thistle. I was pulling all of that. I was that person that was getting rid of all of it. It's a noxious weed. Get it out of here. And now that I am able to have cannabis that soothes that sting, I'm not afraid to be around nettle anymore. And I know how to work with it. And it's easy. You just keep cutting it back and you don't have to worry about it. You can use it in teas and all these other things. So I'm just, oh wow, I'm so excited we're talking about herbs today. It's just amazing. And a comic strip here, talking about herbs, which is really cool because I think it's kind of maybe relating these things for kids to actually be introduced to, back to teaching these kids when they're young, when, letting them experience these growing things and being out with nature and being one. But yes, Sarah, I love it. When did you want to show the sneak peek? And we can also talk about if you guys want to donate for the comic book, you can buy her a coffee. She has buy her a coffee. It's pretty cute page. And anybody that can donate from $1 to whatever. I mean, it's what do you call that? Whatever you want to donate.
Yeah, pay what you can.
Yeah, pay as you can. There you go. And you'll have access to this comic. And I think it's really cool that you're doing this for everybody. It's really cool.
What's the dates for the comics if someone was to be a donator? What could they expect to get?
Yeah, cool. So we are actually launching the digital Sunday comic on Sunday. So this Sunday, we're really excited about it. It's going to be a chapter per week sent to you via email. And so this is fusing the concept of a weekly newspaper column. Remember the newspapers where you had a weekly column and every day on a Wednesday or whatever, you would have a certain column that you get to read. And then the next week it would be a different column. Well, we're playing with that concept meets the funny pages. So a Sunday comic. And then we'll have a print edition eventually, but that's going to take some time. So in the meantime, we're introducing a chapter per week. And so if you donate any amount to the crowdfunding campaign, you can sign up to be receiving that. And the story, Herbs of the Apocalypse, actually has a soundtrack as well. So each chapter comes with a song. So you can do that whole, Pink Floyd lines we're watching the Wizard of Oz thing. And on the third line more, you can press play. We're probably not gonna dictate it like that, but you can definitely play along the soundtrack each week. And so the concept is digital is temporary, print is forever. So the digital comic, each chapter is only out for a week and then disappears and you get the next one. So this right here, this is the cover. And so, people often ask me, what are the 10 herbs of the apocalypse? Well, we're not giving them all away, but I'll just let you know that all of them are here on the cover. And those are the herbs that get a monologue, amongst other herbs that are mentioned. There are many different plants that are mentioned in the story. So this is a sample. This is actually down below the first page. And yeah, so this is what the comic's going to look like when it hits your inbox on Sunday. This is just the first page. So on Sunday, there'll be 4 pages. And the chapters vary in length. So sometimes they're anywhere from 1 to 4 pages. And that's actually yarrow.
That is awesome.
It sure is.
I recognized it by the fern looking the petal, I call it the leaves there.
One down to the left too.
Beautiful.
And I have to mention that my illustrator, Rokaya Taki, she's incredible. She's influenced by sci-fi and terror art. So the kind of aesthetic of the comic is horror psych. So it has that kind of creepy vibe and sort of psychedelia vibe. But before this, she hadn't done any botanical drawings whatsoever. And obviously you can see she's amazing at it.
Yeah, just amazing.
So it's been super great to work with her. She's incredibly talented. And it's been, you know, there are certain parts about it that have been really interesting. Like, for example, I never thought it would be so fun to get to dress the characters. So each chapter, she asked me, what are the characters wearing? What does their hair look like? So I've been having a lot of fun playing with that.
Oh yeah, make them wear anything you want. How cool. That's beautiful. Very cool.
Yeah, thank you so much for the rundown. So everyone watch and make sure to go over there. And if you can, please donate and you'll be able to get those digital renditions weekly. And as she mentioned, once the hard print is out, that'll be the keeper. That's the whole plan with it. So with the digitals, you get them as they come out, when they come out, and then it's a self-destructing message every week. So I think that's super cool. I really enjoy that. And I love that it's donate what you can. I know I heard prior, you mentioned for someone, if they're really, you know, looking and they really wanted to be a part of this and experience it, and there was no way they could muster anything up, just to reach out privately, and just still make something work. So that's fantastic. I mean, we're the same over here. You know, if you're really interested and you're one of our viewers and you're just not in a position, you know, reach out to myself and Tara, and I'm sure that's something that can be done. But donate anything makes it pretty easy too. So that's beautiful. And yeah, I love that you're combining these different industries. You've got the comic world, you've got the ladies only, you're bringing those together. We've got the sustainable kind of farming that's kind of snuck in there with these specific herbs. It's just this beautiful symphony. And I think it's going to help a lot of different people from different areas and different age ranges all kind of combined. And you're just kind of, you know, sneaking some information down their throat they don't even know, right? It's perfect. They're going to wind up with a heightened knowledge on a subject they didn't even realize because they're just enjoying a sweet comic.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think about too, because I didn't recognize this at the time, but once I started creating the graphic novel, a lot of people really gravitate towards graphic novels as a way that they consume information. For example, my brother, he's a huge comic nerd and very much inspired any amount of comic nerddom I have, but he only reads comic books. And then some people, you know, on the other side of the coin, they don't take comics seriously. I've mentioned this to, you know, a handful of people, and they've been like, well, I don't like comic books. That's fine. But, you know, so it kind of has an ability to play in that world of, you know, taking it seriously, not seriously. So we kind of work with that a little bit in the comic. I mean, I think it would be cool if teenagers were reading it. I don't know if it's exactly kid friendly. I wouldn't say it's unfriendly, but some of the subject matter is a bit, I don't know, risque. It's provocative, but you know, kids get their hand on worse things.
Provocative. Oh my gosh. Which I'm sorry. Some of the outfits people wear just on national TV, like, wow, I would have never saw that, but whatever.
I don't think we have to worry too much with everything that's on the mainstream.
Provocative comic. Yeah.
At least we're gonna provocatively educate you on utilizing some weeds you had no idea were so beneficial, because that's another great thing, right? Like, we're always chopping down these weeds, and I just wanted to beat it in one more time. If we've got a field that's full of these weeds or certain things, and they're coming in and they're starting to monocrop naturally by themselves, there is probably a reason they're there. And maybe it's potential with the certain fungal dominance you have in your soil, that these are the only plants that have the potential to take off now. And by them doing so, you're going to keep getting new species every single year. And if you really want to get your hands in there or something, instead of trying to weed them all and get rid of them, let them grow to a nice height, and then just chop them down in half and leave all that material to sit and mulch down on itself. And then let the plants keep growing through itself. And then you're going to kind of speed up this decomposition process, add to the fungal dominance and the microbial life in your soil. And then you're going to start seeing new species, and these specific ones that are only around, like dandelions, generally when we've got some hard compact soil that really needs some work, and I mean they thrive, you'll start to see more diversity and things will even out, and then you'll be able to utilize all of these different plants and herbs for their own purposes. So that's my little spiel. I think it's dab time. Tara's going in. I'm going to do that. We're so happy. Everything gone over, Sarah, so far has been fantastic. You're so well spoken. I love everything that you're doing on the side. And I mean, you like, there's so much stuff we haven't even touched on that you've been a part of. And we'd love to have you back a few times. And are you available to have any sort of little puff with us, or did you want to?
She already did, man. I saw her. She has a little toke there. She has a little split, maybe.
I'll have a couple more, but
Well, let's give a shout out to chat right now.
Of course.
We could say hello to chat and see who we got. Is everybody saying hello in chat? If you're out there, say hello in chat so we can say hello to you back. Be nice to say, Sarah, to see everybody we got out there, and make sure you give her a follow over there on Instagram. I'm going to go in on some, I think this is Acapulco Gold here. We got a little bit of Acapulco Gold left, so we're going to go in on that a little bit. Another dab, celebratory dab, 710. He's checking in. We got Supreme Grapes and awesome artwork. That's awesome. Oh, awesome. Cool. That's awesome. That's awesome. By the way, I forgot to remind you, if you are here to have live chat up, not top chat up there in that little that little arrow, you want to click that arrow and it drops down and have live chat, because top chat will leave out some comments. So just so you know, if you're tuning in live today, greetings, hello, hi, how are you? What's up? What's up? We got 420 community videos. We got Supreme Grape here. We got Sammy Sis. How you doing, Sammy? Love you, man. What else? Who else we got? We got Stu checking in here. We got Captain Chirp was here earlier. Who else we had? We had John tuning in. Fried Pepper in the house. Mark, how are you? Hope you're doing well. All right, I'm going to have a dab. If you haven't said hello. Oh, I saw Cheddar Bob. He popped in here too. All right, let's have a dab.
Yeah, I'm just gonna fire up. And then for yourself, Sarah, what else do you have in the future? Maybe aside from this, that you're either looking forward to, or something else going on. I know you're such a multifaceted person. There's probably a multitude of things you have going on under the belt right now. So what's the next thing you're excited about? Even if it's just maybe getting out somewhere, because all these places are starting to have a little bit less restrictions and so on and so forth. The floor is yours.
Thanks. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to traveling again. I'm an avid traveler, and this time of contraction has been very important for a lot of reasons, I think, and it's really challenged me personally. But I'm ready to start getting out there and traveling. And so I'm going to be visiting the States in July, August. I'm looking forward to that. I haven't been back since the pandemic, so I'll be visiting there. In general, I am excited to just be pursuing plant medicine. I'm learning more and more all the time. My day job is involved with, I'm an editor and creative director for a nonprofit called the Society of Cannabis Clinicians. So they're advocating for the use of cannabis in clinical practice. And so I'm, just supporting the org, and generally speaking, education has always been my area of interest in as far as the cannabis movement goes. And, there are many different aspects of the movement, but I think education is always going to be a mainstay for me personally. And if I had to write about plants all day, every day, I'd be perfectly happy with that.
And if you do it, we'll be perfectly happy with it too. So you've got our support completely. And it's fantastic. You've obviously got a lot of family support too, which is fantastic, because it's nice to just be passionate about something and then have that support from all angles. So it's super cool to see everything that's coming together and how passionate you are, clearly.
Thanks. Yeah, I think, now is a good time to really turn to nature, and kind of the fundamental perspective of the project Herbs for the Apocalypse is basically the feeling that plant medicine has the ability to support us in our fate, whether that's our own demise or our collective higher evolution, because I can't say what's going to happen in the future. I don't want to be a doomsday person. I also don't want to be a complete idealist and say we're all going to be okay. Who knows? I mean, there are infinite possibilities for us, but I just think that plants are the answer, whatever it is. So that's kind of what my work is constantly evolving towards and for. And I just want to be here to see all the exciting things that are happening. And I see that shifts are afoot. So that's exciting.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree. Wow, I've just really super enjoyed the conversation today. Is there some stuff you feel like we're leaving out, Sarah? We've kind of bombarded you with all kinds of questions and everything. Is there some other things you wanted to talk about today?
Yeah, I just kind of want to say, like, I'm very humbled and honored to have this project connected me to so many great people. Um, I met Tara when we were at a Dragonfly Earth Medicine gathering. And just being able to go there and meet people who were actually working to leave the earth in a better state in which they found it. I mean, that's not just an idealistic notion, that's actually people are tangibly doing that. And I think focusing on that is really important because I don't know, personally, I can get really bogged down by all the really horrendous things that are happening these days. But, it's important to remember that there are people doing some wonderful work and, really holding the vision of a different future that we want to see. And so I want to keep holding that vision. And if any of you are interested in the comic or you want to have a chat about things, feel free to get in touch with us. If you go to the website herbsoftheapocalypse.com and you message us, it'll reach me. And it's also been an interesting opportunity to connect with more people and bring them into the project. For example, one of my collaborators, Miles Eiton, he's very much responsible in helping us with the digital kind of outlook on the project, help me with story development. I actually have friends, a lot of them are film enthusiasts who have helped me with the story aspect. And we've talked about story and how it's going to unfold. I'm introduced more and more to more herb people. It's brought me deeper into the psychedelics world. And so it's been really exciting just to see how something like this can really expand and grow community.
I agree. Like talking about how we met and everything. And I was going to tell everybody how we met at the beginning and I forgot about that. We actually, Ethan Russo, he is an amazing doctor that has studied cannabis or got into cannabis. I'm going to murder all this. So I won't go deep into who he is. If you don't know who he is, you should know who he is, especially if you're doing cannabis. Go check him out. He is just amazing. And this is his daughter, Sarah. Good gosh, I can't speak now. Because when I first met him, I ran up him and gave him a big hug at the Hive. We were at the Hive. We were down at the Hive in California with Dragonfly Earth Medicine. And Sarah and her dad come walking up, and I was just in awe to get to meet him because I had been watching him for so long on YouTube, learning about cannabis. I had nowhere to go to learn about cannabis. I didn't have someone to talk to. And so YouTube was actually where I found it. So that's why I have a YouTube channel. And so that's why, go ahead, Drake.
I hate cutting you off, but
go ahead.
I felt the exact same way with yourself because I met Tara through the Regenerative Conference as well. I wasn't fortunate enough to be able to go, but I was at the time able to go and do the online live essentially, and I met Tara through chat, and then we just hit it off. But it was kind of like talking to obviously everyone has their own prestiges in their different places, and a lot of people have spent their whole life doing things, so I'm not trying to rope everyone in the same core, but it's even with yourself, I was just so flabbergasted to be chatting with you and how receptive you were and to be able to form a relationship with you. And now I'm in the same way you're talking about being in awe there. I'm in awe. We're sitting here chatting with Sarah Russo about the Herbs Against the Apocalypse. It's just these very neat things, and it compounds. And then how many people are now going to be able to listen to this and then talk to other people, and we just get to keep compounding the information and allowing people with passions to be able to excel in those specific areas. And as a whole, we can keep getting the information out and then continually keep getting blown away by just being able to hear this information said, because that's kind of what it is. We all just learn from people and from, well, yeah, essentially we learn from people and from trial and error and areas that we're passionate about, and then we just repeat it to others who are equally, if not more passionate, and then it continues down the line. So that's all we're doing.
Yeah,
Being a part
exactly.
of it.
Yeah, exactly. Just
thanks again, Sarah. Like, it's, like
weaving that mycelium
so
web.
Exactly, where it's all about the fungi.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yes.
And with Dragonfly Earth Medicine, being able to meet them, and they had the hive gathering and invited Ethan Russo and several other people there, and Sarah came, and it was awesome. Like, it was beautiful, and what she was talking about earlier, something that America is missing out on, as far as like what they have there in Spain, is the community gathering, the uniting, being able to smoke with one another. And I think that that's super important, and that's something we are missing out on. And definitely right now in this world, in this space, us being isolated as individuals is not healthy for us on any level. And so I think having this opportunity even to do social media this way, and bonding even over virtual reality, I guess this is how we'll make things work. And I'm happy to do it. So I'm going to take a smoke and another dab with you all out there. And thanks for being here today. I want to just thank each and every one of you that support this channel and that support anybody in cannabis, because I think it's super important that we do that right now. Sarah, any final words for us today?
Just thanks. I really just appreciate the opportunity. This is actually the first YouTube show I've been on, so
Cool.
it's been fun.
First live, we popped a cherry. Whoops.
Well, there's a Sarah, you're hilarious. There's a good lead on to one more thing. We're never going to let you go. I recently was listening to you on another show. I'm not sure how many you've done. What was the most recent other show you've done? Where should someone else go check out if they wanted to hear more from you?
So I just did a really wonderful podcast called Cannabis Voices with Mary Biles. She centers on cannabis specialists, and her and I had a really good chat about cannabis and plant allies. I'll send a link. We have an ongoing list of some of our collaboration and media appearances. I will be adding this one onto it. And yeah, so if you want to hear that, I'll send the link in the chat. And
yeah, please.
I also, my friend's podcast, How to Build an Industry, is very interesting. It's centering around the booming, emerging psychedelic industry. And it's very science-y focused. So we had an Herbs for the Apocalypse commercial on that. And then we're going to do a game. So there's going to be name that plant of apocalypse. And so I'll probably be appearing on that show again. And that's a super great resource for you all. Super sciencey, geeky, awesome plant people. So definitely check that out. And then, I'm just open to exploring different outlets and opportunities. So if any of you have ways that you want to collaborate, feel free to reach out.
Well, I'm so glad that I asked. Thank you for sharing those in chat there. We'll definitely have to check that out. We're definitely all about psychedelic podcasts, and I'm sure just like with cannabis, they're going to be getting the same treatment. It's not going to be super easy to do a whole bunch of, let's say, PR. It's not going to be simple to get all your podcasts out. There's going to be restrictions and all sorts of different hindrances that the algorithms throw at us, let's say. So yeah, definitely go and check that out as well. I certainly will be, especially one that's a little bit more rooted in science, because I think that's super neat to have. I'm all about personal trials and tribulations and hearing cool stories and all that, but I also like to hear some of the newer and more technical side of things as well. So that's fantastic that it's kind of rooted there, and it's even better that you're over there and got a commercial and stuff. So can't wait to see you there. And that was the specific show I was listening to prior, was the Voices of Cannabis, I believe it was. So that's fantastic. So everyone go check that one out if you haven't had enough yet. And if you have, check it out anyways, because I'll tell you right now, you haven't.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Drake. I I would love to invite you back on and have you back on again if you'd like to come back on. So putting that out there, or if you'd like to have, if there's another guest you'd like us to interview, and we could definitely do some collabs. I'm always open to collabs. Everybody knows that out there. I'd love to meet everybody. As you all know, we are trying to do a regular show on Sundays and Wednesdays now, and it's at 9 o'clock Pacific time, 9 a.m. So we're trying to get consistent so that you don't have to worry about those notifications. You just know that you can be here to sesh with us at 9 and hang out and have a little nice chill and chat. And I just love that we're going to be introducing more and more people. We got Breeder Steve coming on Saturday, so looking forward to that. Sarah, geez, I want to ask you a million more things, but I know we've kept you here long enough. We've kept you here for an hour, so we'll definitely have you back on here again. Yarrow and Carangela, is that how I say it? It's actually, I call them marigolds. Say so Carangela, is that how I actually say it?
Calendula. And I would also mention that on the Herbs for the Apocalypse website, there are articles about each one of those plants. So if you want to learn more, you can check it out.
Wonderful. So we'll be able to dive deep into these things. Drake, any final thoughts for today?
Oh, I'm just flabbergasted. It's been a great show. I believe when I looked up calendula, I'll still pronounce it wrong, just because I was interested. I'm pretty sure it's a whole family too. So as stated, there's a lot of information to learn about all of these specific herbs. So go check it out. Tune in the future to hear more about it, and check out any of the various sources cited prior to see Sarah kicking ass on other places.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
And if anybody has questions for her, I'm sure if you could hit her up or DM her on any of those, and she'd be happy to get back with you. Also, we're going to be throwing out a Zoom link after one of our shows coming up soon, so we can hang out and sesh with you all. Probably maybe next Saturday, we'll throw that link out if you guys want to hang around after and smoke next Saturday after Breeder Steve's cast. I kind of want to put that out there every now and then, just so the community can meet one another. If some of you are feeling like you'd like to get out and meet one another and can't get out, and this could be an affordable way to meet people, right? Cheap and easy. Push a button. There you go.
Nice.
All right, Sarah. Thanks again for being here. Go ahead and stay on. We're going to chat just a little bit after we go offline. But I'm going to say thanks again for everybody tuning in again. Thank you for all your support. Please hit that thumbs up if you can. We'd really appreciate it. It helps get our channel noticed more, and it helps get the word out there. So y'all have a beautiful day, and we'll see you again on the next live. As always, peace and love. Cheers.